This was my experience building my first Lego, and I have to tell you, it wasn't what I expected. At first glance, it looks simple. I used to watch super satisfying YouTube videos where pieces were placed together perfectly, and by the end they had built machines that ran incredibly smoothly. After about 10 minutes, the build was finished. Everything looked clean, organized, and perfect. At some point I told myself, this is easy, I can do this. And I wondered, how hard could it really be? But when you open the box of blocks, you quickly realize something is different. For many people, this becomes a challenge they never finish, because once you actually start building, it's very different from what you see on YouTube. The blocks are extremely satisfying, I won't deny that. When you see the order of each piece and how everything slowly starts to make sense, the build, the mechanisms, it feels amazing. But what many people don't see is that those videos are sped up. And this is where my first building experience really began. I spent a lot of time on it because I'm a very perfectionist person. And when building Lego Technic, it's extremely important to follow the instructions carefully so you don't end up with extra pieces, like I did. My first build took me around 10 hours. All of that just to upload a 20-minute video, which, by the way, you can watch here. But in that video, you don't see the pauses, you don't see the mistakes, and most importantly, you don't see the frustration of trying to find pieces. That illusion makes everything look easy, when in reality, you're dealing with hundreds of tiny pieces, and that's when the real challenge begins. These builds don't just test your ability to build, they also test your patience. And if you're someone with little patience like me, trust me, it becomes a huge challenge. Sometimes you even feel like throwing all the pieces on the table. Many times halfway through the build, pieces don't seem to fit. The instructions start to feel repetitive. And that's exactly when most people decide to quit. Personally, I thought about quitting many times, but I didn't. Because somehow I became obsessed with the blocks. I couldn't accept that a set of plastic pieces could defeat me. But for the right people, these builds are incredibly satisfying. Because when everything finally starts working, it almost feels like magic. Only people who have built something like this will understand. When every piston starts moving, when the mechanisms begin to operate like real machines, at that point it stops feeling like plastic blocks. It starts to feel like engineering. You're no longer building a toy, you're building a machine. And that completely changes the experience. So my conclusion is that these blocks are not impossible, and they're not necessarily difficult because of the pieces themselves. What I learned is that this hobby rewards three things: patience, precision, and persistence. For some people, this becomes an incredibly addictive hobby, and that will probably happen to me as well. But for others, that same challenge is the reason they never finish their first build. So the real question isn't whether the blocks are difficult. The real question is, do you have the patience to build them? Let me know in the comments and subscribe, because many amazing builds are coming.